friends, today I'm going to read to you everything volcanoes and earthquakes, earth-shaking photos, facts, and fun. Today we're going to be focusing on earthquakes. It says here, this is lava from El Doño Lagay volcano in Tanzania, and it can harden in midair and shatter like glass. Introduction. Planet Earth is full of action. On any given day, earthquakes shake the ground and split the surface with deep gashes. Volcanic mountains spew rock and thick ash into the air. Fiery hot rivers of lava then gradually cool to form new land masses. Even the ocean floor changes constantly. Lava oozes from underwater volcanoes. Geologists have identified more than 5,000 of them. Many of these rise over time to break the surface and form islands. Then the wind and pounding waves take over, shaping each new landform. To understand this changing landscape, you have to go back 4.5 billion years to when this planet first formed. No time machine? Then stay right here and hang on for a wild ride as we scale the slopes of an active volcano and shake, rattle, and roll with a mighty quake. Let's discover everything about volcanoes and earthquakes. Earthquakes can cause changes and sometimes tremendous damage on Earth's surface. Earthquakes can rip apart bridges, roads, and buildings. What is an earthquake? The Earth's outer crust might seem rock solid, but in fact, it's pretty thin. We put together like a jigsaw puzzle with many natural cracks and breaks. When the crust shifts suddenly, we feel things rumbling around. That's an earthquake. The biggest pieces of the puzzle are called tectonic plates. There are few major plates and dozens of smaller ones. The edges where these plates touch are called fault lines. When the plates shift along the fault lines, magma can rise to the surface and trigger a volcanic eruption. And where the plates pull apart, slide past each other, or crash together, they take what's on the surface as a ground-buckling, earth-shaking ride. Most earthquakes are too small for people to feel them. Every year, there are millions of tiny quakes that go undetected or unnoticed. However, some major earthquakes are so devastating that they can cause landslides, fires, collapse buildings, and even tidal waves thousands of miles away. Events that often result in the loss of human lives. This crack in the ground above in Chile in South America was caused by aftershocks that rocked that area a month after the big earthquake. Giant jigsaw puzzle. Tectonic plates are always in the move. Most action occurs along the edges where two plates meet. Explosive fact. There is a 100% chance that there will be an earthquake somewhere on Earth today. Colossal quakes. Throughout history, volcanoes and earthquakes have caused great hardship for people all around the world. Even though today's scientists can monitor Earth's movements, they still have no reliable way to predict exactly when a volcano will erupt or an earthquake will strike. That makes preparing for disasters challenging. Earth's tremors and eruptions sometimes catch people by surprise. The result may be a staggering loss of lives and damage to property costing billions of dollars. These are some of the biggest blasts from the past. Port-au-Prince, Haiti, 2010. On January 12, 2010, a huge earthquake rocked Port-au-Prince, the capital and largest city of Haiti. The quake killed more than 200,000 people and left some 1.5 million people homeless. The quake also damaged a main port and airport. Dangerous aftershocks rattled the city for months. San Francisco, 1906. The 1906 earthquake in San Francisco, California, lasted almost an entire minute, which is a long time when the ground is heaving violently. The earthquake, along with the fires that raged for 3 days, destroyed 3/4 of the city. People as far away as central Nevada, 300 miles away, felt the shaking. Mount Pelée, Martinique, 1902. A giant volcanic eruption killed the village of Saint Pierre and killed nearly 30,000 people. In the months after the eruption, thick, sticky lava pushed up from the center of the volcano from a giant dome. The dome grew fast for a year and sometimes as much as 50 feet per day. Finally, the tower collapsed into a pile of rubble. Mount Vesuvius. In AD 79, Italy's Mount Vesuvius erupted for 24 straight hours, burying the nearby cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum in ash. Centuries later, archaeologists uncovered the buried cities. They learned that some of the places falling ash had piled up as high as 9 feet, blocking doorways and crushing roofs. It's impossible to know how many died, but the remains of about 2,000 people have found in excavations in Pompeii. The bodies decayed, but the ashes combined with the moisture and molded around them. Scientists poured plaster into some of these solidified ash molds. The resulting plaster cast revealed people clutching jewelry and belongings and hugging each other in their final moments. Scientists agree that Vesuvius is overdue for another major eruption. Today, 1 million people live in Naples, Italy, much too close for comfort. We know lots of tiny earthquakes happen every day, but no one even notices. We don't expect to feel a quake unless we live near a major fault line, but sometimes there's a surprise. In the summer of 2011, my colleagues at the Washington, D.C. headquarters of National Geographic Society were rattled by a 5.8 magnitude quake that sent them running very confused from their offices. The quake's epicenter was 100 miles away in Virginia. No deaths or serious damages were reported anywhere, but there sure was a lot of texting and tweeting going on. Scientists see evidence of fault movement in some unlikely places. California's San Andreas Fault runs through forests of redwood, the planet's tallest trees. Some trunks show distinct zigzags as they reach toward the sky. A deep wood in the forest stands a stump split down the middle by an earthquake. It's the size of a small living room, and the gap in the middle, right in the line with the fault, is big enough for a man to climb in. The movements of plates along California's San Andreas Fault are slowly moving Los Angeles and San Francisco closer together. They could be neighbors in several million years. Living on the fault line. Earthquakes can make life difficult. For months and even years after they occur, a massive quake can destroy bridges, airport roadways. And when this happens, people can't get food or supplies that they need. However, with this right training and advanced planning, people can survive big jolts safely. Here we go again. In 2011, an earthquake in Japan hit 9.0 on the magnitude scale and produced more than 400 aftershock quakes with a magnitude of at least 5 or greater. Tsunami warnings. When earthquakes occur at the bottom of the ocean, the aftershocks reach far and wide from the epicenter. Many coastal cities have tsunami warning systems that set off alarms that warn residents to flee coastal areas. The alarms are triggered by signals from special buoys out at sea that sense changes in sea level and underwater earthquakes. Look to the water. Aftershocks can make waves in pools or swimming pools roll back and forth. The phenomenon is called a seiche, pronounced seiche. Oops, sorry, I said that wrong. Or a standing wave. Always learning. Scientists in Oregon State University Wave Research Laboratory in Oregon, USA, have built an ultimate wave machine. The tsunami wave basin simulates the powerful waves made by a tsunami, so we can better understand beach erosion and coastal flooding. Know your quakes. In 2012, a 6.9 magnitude earthquake destroyed homes and villages in the central Philippines. The amount of energy generated by an earthquake in the Indian Ocean in 2004 could have powered all the U.S. homes and businesses for 3 days. The spot where an earthquake ruptures is called an epicenter. Vibrations called seismic waves travel out around the epicenter in circles, like ripples from the rock tossed into the lake. People living hundreds of miles from the epicenter can sometimes feel the earth shudder beneath their feet. People have tried to predict earthquakes for thousands of years. Knowing when an earthquake will happen can help people prepare for a disaster. Scientists are still developing tools to help measure the power, duration, and direction of an earthquake, because these are clues that what might happen in the future. Moment magnitude scale. The moment magnitude scale measures the size of an earthquake by the amount of energy it releases. Developed in the 1970s by Thomas Hanks and Huru Kanamori, the scale is successor to the Richter scale. Here is how to rate an earthquake. A 10 plus has never been recorded. 9 is severe. This only occurs every 5 to 20 years. 8, serious damage over a large area. 7, serious damage to buildings and structures. 6, strong enough to be destructive. 5, moderate damage over a small area. 4, minor damage, occurs daily around the world. 3, often felt but rarely causes damage. 2 or less is not usually felt but recorded by seismographs. Tracking earthquakes. A seismograph can measure and record strings of seismic waves that move away from the quake's epicenter. It detects the smallest changes in Earth's movements. The device converts movements into electronic signals that are recorded by a computer. Scientists combine the data from several seismographs to locate the quake's epicenter and figure out how deep and strong the quake is. Ancient earthquake detector. Zhang Hen was a Chinese inventor who lived from AD 78 to 139. Historians credit him with constructing the world's first seismometer, shown here. When the ground shook, a ball fell from the dragon's head into the toad-shaped container below. The device showed the direction of the earthquake's epicenter. Human engineering can be no match for a powerful earthquake. When a strong quake strikes, structures can buckle or crumble in an instant. In 1995, an earthquake destroyed this highway in Osaka, Kobe, Japan. Can animals predict earthquakes? Are animals trying to tell us something when they seem to go wild for no reason? It turns out that animals may be more sensitive to vibrations and chemical changes in rocks and air than people are. As far back as 373 BC, people have reported seeing rats, snakes, and weasels fleeing a city in Greece just days before a devastating earthquake. In 1975, hibernating snakes slithered out of their winter burrows and hightailed it out of Haicheng, China. 1 month later, a large earthquake shook the city. Even elephants are tuned to quakes. Just hours before the tremendous tsunami hit in Thailand in 2004, anxious elephants ran to higher ground. Since scientists can't create earthquakes in the lab, it's difficult to prove that animals are accurate predictors of natural disasters. Even so, it probably makes sense to pay attention when animals start acting strange. Explosive fact. In 1989, a geologist predicted the San Francisco earthquake a week before it occurred when he noticed a large number of missing pet notices in local classified ads. Snake alert. 3 days before Mount Pelee erupted on the island of Martinique in 1902, dozens of pit vipers appeared in the town of St. Pierre, killing some 50 people and 200 animals with their venomous bites. Centipedes and ants also left their mountain homes before Pelee grew. No eggs today. Farmers are tuned into their chickens, and birds may be turned into their earthquake warning signs. Over the years, farmers have reported that chickens stop laying eggs before large earthquakes. Brace yourself. Millions of people live in areas that are prone to earthquakes. For them, learning how to stay safe during a quake is a necessity. They need to be specifically designed buildings and protected from falling objects and shattering glass. San Francisco's Transamerica Pyramid has a 52-deep foundation that can shift in a motion of an earthquake. Helping hand. It takes many volunteers to help people after a natural disaster. Rescuing survivors from a rubble is difficult and dangerous. Organizations such as the Red Cross and first responders help save countless lives. When homes are destroyed, organizations and volunteers also help people find shelters with necessary food and water. Like the real thing, earthquake simulators are close to the real thing. They produce the effects in a van or a room that are similar to quakes or magnitudes of 3 to 8. People can learn safety measures by using simulators to practice avoiding injuries. Architects and engineers learn good design principles with these tools. Stronger buildings. This 55-story building in Mexico City, Mexico, withstood a 7.6 magnitude quake in 2003. Architects believe it can withstand up to 8.5 magnitude quake. The first 30 floors are made out of 21,000 tons of steel reinforced concrete. The upper floors have steel columns that are able to sway. Architects believe that when upper floors can sway a bit, buildings are safer from shaking. Fun fact, In 2010, a massive 8.8 quake moved in a city of Chile 10 feet to the west and slightly tipped the Earth on its axis. I hope you enjoyed listening. Thanks